A procedural matter. This house has rules of procedure, and among them there is dress code. This house is changing slowly but on a slow but sure dose on dress code. And when I come as a member of parliament and above all a shadow minister of education, I dress smart, as you can see me here, Mr. Speaker. I would think, Mr. Speaker, something must happen, or whether to the procedure, okay, we amend the rules of parliament and we remove those stringent demands of dress code on our rules. Otherwise, we are degenerating slowly by slowly. I don't want to mention anybody. Mr. Speaker, if we raise matters of, we raise points of order here, you might have about 10 members being sent out of the House. And indeed, it is within your powers to determine that. But the issue of dress code in this House is degenerating day by day. So wouldn't it be procedure, okay, Mr. Speaker, that you give a serious warning and ruling? Because my decency must be reflected on the other members on my side as well. Otherwise, I wouldn't like to mention, because I'm a bit, I should end there. Mr. Chief Whip, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Sewungu, I register your concern seriously. What we will do next week, we shall meet the leader of opposition, the government chief whip, the whips, the chairman, committee on rules, the speaker, and I. We contemplate on this matter and we give proper guidance that is harmonized to members in as far as interpretation of the rules on dressing is concerned. Next week, we shall give that guidance. Honorable Minister.
Today I will take your number. Please prepare. Kindly prepare for me. I will give you a call. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, you will recall during the preliminary sitting of 1st February, I presented a comprehensive statement in response to issues raised by this House regarding FMD in Uganda. In particular, you framed the issues as follows: how long the affected districts have been under quarantine and how long it is anticipated to take, government's position on availing the vaccine to farmers, government to present the short and long-term measures to manage economic effects of the outbreak in the affected districts, how the disease spread to various districts and yet there are measures put in place, the support needed by the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry and Fisheries from the different stakeholders. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, I informed the House that the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries would be presenting to Cabinet strategies to control and eradicate FMD in Uganda, and further committed to update the House once Cabinet had considered the same. The following immediate, short, medium, and long-term strategies were presented to Cabinet during the meeting of Monday, 5th February 2024 for discussion and consideration. The short-term strategies are as follows. To contain and stop further spread of the disease, the following immediate and short-term interventions were proposed and approved by Cabinet. 1, immediate procurement under emergency arrangements and distribution of 10 million FMD vaccine doses to vaccinate animals in affected and high-risk districts to complete ring vaccination so as to enable resumption of safe trading activities. Number 2, immediate setup of the national veterinary storage infrastructure to enable mass importation and storage of vaccines at Entebbe. Those are the short term, which we hope to undertake as soon as we are supported. Medium-term strategies. Honorable Speaker and colleagues, as I previously briefed this House, countries that have effectively controlled and eradicated FMD, as guided by the World Organization of Animal Health and the Food FAO, have implemented compulsory biannual FMD vaccination for the entire susceptible domestic animal population, that is cattle, goats, sheep, and pigs. To achieve this intervention, the following were proposed to Cabinet, and they were approved. Procurement and distribution of 88 million doses of FMD vaccine annually for biannual mass vaccination of all the susceptible domestic animal population. Number two, making FMD vaccination compulsory by a legal instrument issued by the Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. Number three, establishing and equipping 8 regional cold chain facilities to support safe vaccine storage and distribution. Because if we import all of these doses, they have to be safely stored and then accessed by the DVOs. Supporting and strengthening vaccine administration and disease surveillance systems at regional, national, and local government levels. 5, district veterinary officers, sub-county chiefs, and parish chiefs to routinely collect, document, and update data on animal population per homestead so as to enable precision periodic vaccination. And the long-term strategy we presented is, under the long-term measures to control and eradicate FMD, MAIF proposal to Cabinet 2, number 1, develop and grow the culture of compulsory biannual FMD vaccination for all the susceptible domestic animals. Support NARO to fast-track FMD vaccine research and development. The NARO process is already ongoing. When the vaccines are domestically produced, the cost will substantially reduce and become more affordable to the farmer. Importation and procurement delays will also be mitigated, thus guaranteeing a stable supply chain in the country. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, MAIF further presented the options as well as pros and cons of either vaccinating the entire 44 million susceptible domestic animal population or the 16 million cattle herd, as some people had suggested. In either option, government would have to make an initial procurement of all the required vaccines so that farmers can buy from government. But finally, Cabinet discussed and said all animals must be vaccinated. MAIF also presented and Cabinet considered policy options regarding the reversal of policy from government providing the FMD vaccine as a public good to farmers paying or contributing towards the vaccines. The following options were presented. Option 1, farmers pay 100% of the cost of the vaccine and the government covers the cost of vaccine administration. In this optional scenario, the farmer would be required to pay the cost of each dose of the vaccine, which is estimated at $2 per dose, as given, and this would be twice a year for each susceptible animal, and present evidence of payment to the designated veterinary medical store. Government then dispatches a veterinary officer to administer the vaccine, and the cost of vaccine administration is met by government. The advantage with this option is that the government is able to replenish the stock easily and ensure timely availability of vaccines in the country, since the funds will be plowed back into a revolving mechanism to be used for the timely placement of vaccine orders. The other option, cost sharing. Farmers pay 50% of the cost of the vaccine, and the government covers 50% plus the cost of vaccine administration. Under this scenario, a farmer would be required to pay half of the cost of each dose of the vaccine. That's about $1 per dose per cow, and to be done twice a year. And present evidence of payment of the same to the designated veterinary medicine store. Government then dispatches the veterinary officer to administer the vaccine. The advantage with this option is that the farmer bears a smaller cost and may be more motivated to comply. The challenge, however, is that the government would be required to continuously, every year, provide funding for the 50% in the budget to replenish vaccine stock, which may prove costly in the long run, and any budget insufficiency or cuts may affect the vaccine efforts or calendar, and then we go back to the usual problem. Decisions by Cabinet. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, following the presentation and discussion of the various options and strategies, the following were decided on by Cabinet. Directed the Minister of Finance to avail a supplementary budget that allows immediate sourcing of 10 million doses of FMD vaccine to facilitate vaccination of the affected and neighboring districts that are at high risk, and thereafter make it easy for veterinary authorities to lift quarantine restrictions, as was being demanded by the colleagues from the cattle districts. Government will no longer provide FMD vaccines for free as a public good. Pay for the vaccines 100% as per option 1, because the cost is seemingly affordable. Government will, however, continue to meet the cost of vaccine importation, storage, distribution, and administration. This is for purposes of ensuring that vaccines are live organisms, so they have to be in the hands of government. And if you allow anybody to bring in any vaccine, they can bring in strains we do not have and end up complicating the disease. Government will, in the next financial year, 24-25, create a revolving or buffer fund to kickstart the procurement of FMD vaccines for the entire 44 million susceptible domestic animal population. The farmers will be paying for them through a financial digital system managed by the Ministries of Finance and Local Government. The proceeds from the sales will be plowed back through a revolving mechanism to facilitate continuous and timely procurement of vaccines in the subsequent periods or years. In other words, government will have to inject into the revolving fund a one-off allocation. Biannual FMD vaccination will be compulsory, and a proof of vaccination will be a precondition for trade in animal and or animal products. So colleagues, I hope you will bear with us as we implement this. Cabinet maintained that for purposes of biosafety, stroke security, government should remain in control of importation of the vaccines so as to control the risk of any other private entity bringing into the country foreign strains which are not in Uganda, thus further complicating the situation and could potentially wipe out the entire susceptible domestic animal population. Conclusion, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, I am convinced that if my ministry is supported to implement the above strategies, immediate, short, medium, and long term, FMD will both be controlled and eradicated in Uganda, just like other animal diseases like rinderpest were eradicated. I appeal to this August House to support these strategies and walk the journey with us all through. In the meantime, and as I briefed you last time, colleagues, the quarantine restrictions in affected districts remain in force to avoid further escalation of the disease. We have further guided in writing to the district authorities on how non-affected areas can trade safely. We have designated the district security committees chaired by the RDC and with membership of the COW, DISO, LC5, and Secretary for Production, among others, to become the district FMD control task forces and thus implement the issued guidelines. I appeal to you, honorable colleagues from the affected districts, including those at high risk, to always be in touch and support the district security committee in the implementation of these disease control guidelines. I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
This very Parliament, well, not this exact one, Parliament then passed a resolution for government to set up a foot and mouth vaccine production plant. And government promised to adhere to that. We are now being told by the minister, as part of his long-term strategy, that NARO should be supported for these vaccines to be produced locally. It is what makes sense. My challenge, though, is that we keep talking about it. We talk about it some more. There is no clarity on how this gets to be done. We have been promised these things before. We were promised a COVID vaccine and so on. We did not get to see the light of day. We shall never see, somebody say. We would like the minister to have a bit of specificity. When you promise us here that you are fast-tracking production, what exactly does that mean? Could you come to Parliament and say, here is a budget with specificities of what we need to do, so that if Parliament does not support you, tomorrow you blame Parliament that, look, I brought my budget, you did not support me. But there's nothing of the sort. So you're only promising, we are working on making sure the vaccines are produced here, like was promised about 9 years ago. We want specificities, Honorable Minister.
No, Minister, I wanted
Of opposition, congratulations on your new appointment. I had not seen you. NARO has started on the process of developing the FMD vaccine. And in my previous statement, I defined the stage, but they are not yet far. The support they got in the previous years, they were able to progress with the anti-tick vaccine. This House, through the Committee of Agriculture, and Right Honorable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, you fully visited NARO. I am glad to inform you that so far NARO, out of 60 billion for the anti-tick vaccine, I think has received like 60%, and they are now completing the factory for mass rollout. It's really good news. On the anti-tick vaccine, the veterinary people like Honorable One can know that the burden of disease of tick-borne diseases is another huge, huge monster for the farmers. So on FMD vaccine, to be very honest, the support has been minimal because of competing priorities from government. So Cabinet agreed to support NARO. They require something close to 80 billion to be fully out. So I hope, with your support and with the commitment of the Ministry of Finance, NARO will do us proud. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Honorable Korir, the right time, when we are in the budgeting process, we've just passed the budget framework paper. Now we are going into ministerial policy statements. I hope it is fully reflected because there is a willingness from Cabinet, there's a willingness from Parliament. So we should have a solution for this instead of all this money continuing to go out of the country. So I pick...
We got donations of vaccines and government did receive. The president, the founder of one of this country, visited Algeria, and the minister did also visit Algeria. Algeria, as a country, gave donations of vaccine to Uganda. Honorable Minister, when we were on a field trip in Algeria, the ambassador ascertained to us that he had actually lobbied for vaccines worth 1 million euros to be given to Uganda. Why is it that your government, you the minister, you are so reluctant in getting this donation? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The ministry should first consult the local government officials because in Chota we faced a challenge where the people wanted to strike, requesting the local government to explain why the local government was not aware of any quarantine instituted, and that caused the crisis. Secondly, Right Honorable Speaker, the ministry issued a circular indicating lifting of the quarantine and quarantining only areas that are affected. However, no vaccines have been sent yet. In Chota, we have areas that have been quarantined, but there are no vaccines available at the moment. Yet the quarantine was put in place on assumptions that we have foot and mouth disease. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Honorable colleagues, I want...
Of the cattle corridor and where we have the national herd. I was wondering, after the minister said that they're going to have storage facilities, are you going to look at the population of the cattle in the area to determine, because I think Gomba should be one of the districts that should have one, considering the number of cattle that we have. But secondly, I wanted to say that, honestly, we've really been putting in so much. Every time in the agriculture budget, provision comes for pesticides, things to do with fisheries, but animals are left out. So why do you want to sell us those vaccines in the short run? First give them to us free, then after that we start. Yeah, you people can't believe it. I am entitled to speak for the people with cattle. And I myself am hurting. We can't sell cows, we can't sell milk. People are asking us for school fees. I thought some provision would be made in some of those schools at the beginning of this term, because honestly, people are seated at home, they are not going anywhere. And then they look up to us and they say, you MPs, you get cash. Even those of us who have cows, they say all the same, you don't rely on the cows, you get cash. Which is wrong. I get money from the dairy. I get money from cattle sales. So in a way, for me, I look at it as a disadvantage. Please do something. Give us some affirmative action in the meantime. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable, for the correction.
Districts with restrictions, we're actually reading them, the list through the newspapers, and I think they keep increasing every time. I'm wondering, through his statement or his answers later, could you provide for the record of this House the latest number of districts affected by this foot-and-mouth disease? If you could name them, would be actually great. I'm also a bit concerned that we're going to have to wait for the supplementary in order for these vaccines probably to be available. And what is going to happen? What is the immediate solution that is going to take place? And also the authenticity of these certificates for the vaccinated animals. How are we going to guarantee the authenticity of these certificates? Because we know very well in Uganda there are ways of actually creating some of these certificates which may start going around. Thank you very much.
As a person from the corridor cattle, I'm a bit disappointed. Cattle corridor. Honourable Minister, I don't think you are the first minister in this ministry. And where I'm disappointed, I hear you presenting proposals to the cabinet. I don't know whether you did not get a handover file where all these, my colleague was saying, whether planning and research is not part of your ministry. Because when you are talking about animal products, you are talking about perishables. Milk will not wait for you tomorrow. You cannot keep meat for a day. And our farmers are suffering. We are in a school fees period. This is the only source of income. We are selling milk. This is the source of living. In marketing, Mr. Minister, customers expect a good service, but not an excuse. So from your presentation, I'll be comfortable if I was looking at the short-term solutions, because as we speak now, we are still stuck. So as we wait for the budget, the disease will not wait for that budget. So can we have short-term solutions so that our people can get what to do? Then finally, you seem to be doing fire brigade. Today it is foot and mouth. Tomorrow there could be another outbreak. And when there is an outbreak, these outbreaks kill animals in dozens and in seconds. They don't wait for a supplementary budget. So I think, Minister, you should give us short-term solutions because our people here are bad off. I want to thank you.
You see, and I really feel for Honorable Gomba West, what she raised, and now what Honorable Tungo is raising, Kashai South. But I have met farmers, many, who have said, government, you have controlled the supply of these vaccines. You don't have capacity to supply them. Me, I have my money. My cows are dying. You cannot even allow me to buy these vaccines. What do you want me to do? Okay? So I think that's the biggest. I was in Kazo over the weekend, and I shared this with the people. Whereas people might wait for, might say we give free, for free and all that. And really, I understand. It's a farmer, if we have been supporting other crops and all that, we could do that. But this business of us not having an option of people buying their own vaccines, and yet we can't allow them to, and their cows are dying, you would rather give them an option of saying the vaccines are available, but pay, okay? And they save their cows. Why does it help for us to stop them and the cows die because we don't have capacity? Okay? Bukanga.
Culture, hail from my area. Foot and mouth disease, its origin is Tanzania. You all know it. You have known it for so long. We have said you have all, because the moment it is a dry season, the people of Isinjiro, the cows go to the other side. Because there is a big stock in a ranch, very huge. That's where the cows are. The disease comes from Tanzania. Tanzania is trying even to tarmac their roads up to the border. Can you imagine? But for you can't go there because there are no roads. You don't have, no, I'm saying, because if the ministers were able to access the border, even the Committee of Agriculture, you can't go to Isinjiro because there are no roads. You have denied us a service, continue suffering, spending money, instead of being easy. Just make dams along the border. And monitor. You don't have this coming from Kenya. No, it is from Tanzania, where the animals roam around. Our people go even and buy cows from there, bring them to our flock. So I am saying, the long and short of it, let's have treat the disease where it is coming from. It is Tanzania. Frank Tumwebasi, they are the people who know where it comes from. So I feel, no, they know. They know. Much as the money must come from government, but let them look at Isinjiro as the main source of the disease, and the matter will be put to rest. I thank you.
Uncoordinated information. You talked about 100% cost by the farmers, and you said 50 and 50 plus the administration. Can we get it clear? Then another bit is the administration of these vaccines. Is the ministry prepared with the people who must have certificates to come and administer these drugs to our animals? Because there isn't goats in Karamoja which have infiltrated disease in Karamoja. It was administered by people who claim to have been veterinary persons, and in Karamoja itself, there are very few people. What is going to be the case if it is not going to add more problems to Karamoja? Thank you.
Thank you.
Talking more on the traditional animal keepers, the new ones are seemingly left out. For example, West Nile, I myself is now in animal business. So you need to go and do your survey to establish the new statistics about the farmers who have entered this market. Less than that, some of us are going to get marginalized. Two, we are in a difficult situation. And we know how much these animals cost when we procure them or we buy them. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable Minister, we need immediate solution. As we are seated here, the animals are dying. They are dying, and we are losing. How are we going to contribute to this economy? You have talked about the short term, but also the process of getting the money through supplementary budget is a tedious process. Cabinet has to bring it here. It has to be referred to the committee on budget before we approve. Even after approval, the releases will take time. Can you open up? Because we have been buying these vaccines. I have been buying for my animals. So, ensure quality importation, so that when we buy at this time when you are not ready to help us, our animals will be safe. But also lastly, I'm concerned about our vet officers at the district level. I want to say, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, there is very poor coordination. Our foot soldiers, the veterinary officers at sub-county level, they need to be brought on board regularly. How often do you meet with these people? How many of those are doing their work and they are reaching farmers? Many of the farmers are struggling alone. I am a member of Parliament. That's why more attention is being given to me. But how many farmers are being reached by these officers? So Right Honorable Speaker, I pray that this ministry does more work than what is happening now. Thank you so much.
Nyabushozi.
That calls for professionals to administer these vaccines.
the population, the doctor-patient ratio is low, police population is low, I'm not sure that the vets that we have in this country are more than 2,000. Yet, as the minister rightly put it, we have 44 million domestic animals susceptible to this disease. So what then is the minister's strategy in this case? I propose, Right Honorable Speaker, that the Ministry of Agriculture quickly, through farmer cooperatives, carries out training to people to carry out vaccination, to administer these vaccines. I propose and I submit to the Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
That the ambassador told you we had a donation of the vaccine from Algeria. I don't have that information. When we were in Algeria with the president, the vaccines they have are of a different strain. So we can't just allow it in Uganda, whether donation or even if it is cheap. So we have to be sure that the vaccine we have relates to our problem. Yes, so I remember our president even inviting them to come and collaborate with NARO. Honorable Katsabe, I listened properly to capture the words because my English is not like his. His is very complicated, but I picked the message. He was challenging us, and I agree with him that we must ensure utilization of research work in our policies, in our programs. And to this, I want to let him know in the House that COVAP, the College of Veterinary Medicine of Makerere, is collaborating very strongly with NARO. They are collaborating, and I think one of the lecturers, Professor Kahwa, is also having research funded by government in Antique. But by and large, the Ministry of Science and Technology is responsible for ensuring that the public and the government utilize research findings. So that maybe they can brief you on the policies in place to facilitate uptake of research and dissemination and utilization. Honorable Madam from Chotera, the quarantine procedures shocked the people. Well, ideally, quarantine procedures should be bottom up. And that's how I know it. Our commissioner here at the center cannot declare quarantine in a district X unless or until the DVO has reported the cases. Of course, we have cases where the DVOs collude with the local governments not to report the disease so as to be collecting revenues from the markets. That's very criminal. So, but I will check and be sure, because Chotera is a border district. I will be responding to another question. The high-risk districts are those that are at the border, the Tanzanian side, the Kenyan side, even in Tungamo, but also districts like Kiruhura, and I think Karamoja that border national parks, because wildlife is among, carries the reservoirs. So we will ensure that there is ownership and understanding among the district leaders. But I appeal to you to also tell them not to oppose it. You see, quarantine and unpopular as it may be, it is the first measure to disrupt transmission. The effects of trade disruption notwithstanding. We did not lift quarantine in safe areas. We only provided for mechanisms of safe trade. My district, Kamwenga, doesn't have a single case of FMD, but we closed the markets. Yes, because Fort Portal City has FMD. So the DVO, the District Security Committee, should be transparent enough to provide for a sub-county which doesn't have cases to trade. Ideally, it should be full quarantine. But because of listening to your advice and appeals from the people we represent, we put that mechanism. But there is a risk of abuse. So if we detect abuse, we close again. It is unfortunate as that. My friend Iki, Lotte, Honorable Lotte, Lokwang, my apologies. Districts, the high districts will be given priority. You will get more doses the high districts are, those are the borders and those bordering wildlife reserves. So you will get more doses. And Honorable Speaker, you approved a loan here called Climate Smart. Part of the infrastructure it will help us to build are what we call permanent border quarantine stations. You bring a cow from Tanzania, the security forces get you, it will be quarantined there to check if it is disease-free. If it is diseased, you take it back or we kill it there. If it is free, there will be diagnostic centers. And I think the side of Isingiro, Chotera, Rakai, and those bordering South Sudan, Ntungamo, Kasese, you will have quarantine stations permanently there. Honorable Azza, control of animals. I agree with you. The Animal Disease Act, which I think is being considered in the House, has stringent measures for illegal animal movement, and it will be enforced. Honorable Robina, just to give you comfort, Honorable Robina from Gomba West, the 10 million doses we shall get now, it will still be under the same policy arrangement of free distribution for now. The payment will come with a compulsory one, perhaps from July. We are aware of this. Honorable from Padir, I reported by last time 36 districts. I need to check with our dashboard if there are any more that have added on. But actually, this quarantine, this unpopular quarantine, is the solution to avoid further spread. I can tell you if you are disciplined, one Colorado can be sick, and if you have biosafety and you control, you will not be sick. So I will check, but my prayer is that we don't get more. Honorable Tungo, where trade and disease control sometimes conflict, but it's as inevitable as that. You see, however much I plan, I cannot know that, however much I plan, if I don't have enough money, this compulsory biennial, I'm sure even Honorable Sempija, when he was minister, must have briefed this House that we needed to do it. So we never got the budgets. You know how there's so much scramble for money in the budget. So, but that's why we are now saying, let's enable the farmers to pay for the cost, which is at $5. Honorable Byanyima, yes, Isingiro, the border district, there is a problem there. You have a market there called Kamwema. Honorable colleagues, when we finish the issue of mass vaccination, we shall have to discuss cattle markets. Because cattle markets, you take a cow there, you don't sell it, which they say in our local dialect, so Kudiba. Kudiba means it has failed to be bought. Then you return it home. It's one of the leading causes of the spread of animal diseases. So can there be something to replace cattle markets? I know it is something unpopular with the local governments, but let's openly debate it. Let's openly debate it. So we will prioritize border districts with quarantine infrastructure to detect, to test the cows coming across and to detect illegal movement. And there are no roads to the border of Tanzania, I'm not sure. But I hope Honorable Byanyima knows how he will sort that with the Ministry of Works. Honorable Irikor, I confused you. I told you 100% cost and 50%. No, Honorable. I was explaining the two options I presented to the House, I presented to Cabinet. So we were proposing cost sharing, but Cabinet said no, let it be 100%. Because $5 or $4 in a year, someone with a cow can afford. But the government will continue to pay for the cost of administration, fridges, transportation, and the vets who administer the drug. The worry of Honorable Wilco is the same worry I picked from Honorable Kajuenje. Do we have enough professionals? Well, I am not worried about that, because if we draw the vaccination calendar, every DVO will mobilize the vet resources in the district for a calendar. They will say, today we are vaccinating sub-county X. They will go and vaccinate. And they will eventually cover their district. And where there are gaps, you know, Right Honorable Speaker, every sub-county should have a vet. The Ministry of Local Government declared vacancies for extension staff of close to 4,000. And I think Ministry of Finance was waiting to finish rationalization, and they fund them to have more extension staff. So I am not worried. Let's have the vaccines, administration will be sorted. Because even those few vets in the districts, are they really overworked? My answer is no. They will now have full-time work, and will have the animals vaccinated. Involving the cooperatives is a good idea, and we shall explore it. Honorable Jessica Bebuku, statistics about new farmers, I agree with you. We are not only thinking of traditional cattle corridor districts, we know that the cow is now everywhere. Just like the pastoralists were not crop farmers, I now have a garden of coffee, so we are aware about that. And in the decisions of cabinet, one of the challenges, sir, is that UBOS legally is the custodian of statistics management. But now we have agreed that nothing stops any institution from collecting its real-time data. So the DVOs, the parish chiefs, the sub-county chiefs under PDM will have to update homestead by homestead for purposes of having correct returns for the vaccine distribution. Because if you have wrong numbers, then even corruption can come in. Delays in processing the supplementary, I agree with you, but we had a discussion with the PSST this morning. We are trying to agree on a methodology that will make this faster. First of all, HE, the president, has discussed with his counterpart of Botswana. They had the discussion during the NAM, and this morning our ambassador from South Africa visited the president again. Their vaccine institute is coming here. We intend to have a G2G arrangement. That one will cut off the prolonged procurement delays. Also, since there is support from cabinet and this house, the PSST will give a letter of comfort to the PS of Agriculture to start procurement even before the funds are disbursed. I hope we shall try to be faster with your support.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Finally, I think I'm done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Pronouncement that seems to be pointing in the new direction. I wanted to move a motion that his statement plus the pronouncements be referred to the committee so that it gives members, he has asked for the support of the House, but we cannot support him without interrogating the options he has given to us. Whereas us from Lango, Acholi and Teso, we are not so much into cattle ever since our cattle was. But we are preparing. We are preparing to resume and also participate in the cattle business. So I propose that the statement of the minister and the minister is referred to the Committee of Agriculture so that it is properly interrogated and the report can come back and we can support the shift which he has pronounced here, Mr. Speaker, sir.
No, honourable colleagues, this is a motion without notice. Okay, so as a speaker, I have the prerogative under 59J of our rules of procedure to see whether it's a motion I should allow or not. So before you second and do anything, okay? But please, what Honourable Jonathan O'Doul is raising is a very critical point. And me, I thought these are issues which are going to be reflected in the ministerial policy statement. Most of them were to do with financing of the sector. I thought the Committee of Agriculture, once they are processing the ministerial policy statement, which is coming soon, they would cater for all these issues. So we can say, maybe to inform the committee that they should take advantage of this statement, okay? to make the minister make more explanations when they are processing the budget for that sector. I think that would serve the purpose. Yeah. Thank you. Next statement.
And to members of Cabinet as well as members of Parliament who made it possible for Uganda to successfully conclude the hosting of 19th NAM Non-Aligned Movement Summit and the 3rd South-South Summit, G77 plus China. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm before you to provide a statement on the welfare of Ugandans abroad, which is one of the most important constraints of our country, particularly taking into account their remittances back home, have supported the efforts in the economic transformation of Uganda. To this end, I salute all Ugandans abroad for working tirelessly and support their families back home. Right Honorable Speaker, some of our colleagues, particularly the Honorable Nkunyinji Mwada, Chadondo East, and the Honorable Nganda Semuju, Kira Municipality, have raised issues concerning Ugandans held hostage abroad. I commend them for being at the forefront of supporting our citizens abroad and also bringing this matter on the agenda of Parliament. I once again commend this Parliament for supporting efforts for welfare of our citizens abroad. Specifically on the issue of Ugandans held hostage and trafficked abroad, as a way of responding to issues raised here on the floor of Parliament, Honorable Speaker, allow me to provide the following update. Ugandans trafficked to Myanmar. Since the military overthrow of the civilian government of the state councillor, Ms. Aung San Suu Kyi, on the 1st February 2021, in a coup d'etat, the political situation in Myanmar, formerly Burma, has remained tense, and over 30 active rebel movements have continued to operate there. Ugandans who are reported hostage were trafficked to Myanmar to serve in these rebel movements as mercenaries. This civil war in this country, commonly referred to as Myanmar Spring Revolution or People's Defense War, has resulted into over 1.5 million people displaced. The traffickers recruit desperate Ugandans via fictitious websites. Most victims respond to an online advertisement for highly paying jobs, in quotes, in Thailand and in Malaysia. And when they embark on the journeys, either by air or boats via the ports of Mombasa, they are received by traffickers at the designated places. They are then transferred to Myanmar via boats or road to rebel-controlled areas. Currently, the known records of Ugandans in rebel territories are 30, and their names are known. They are held in 2 camps, namely 16 persons in Bailo compound, Kaini State, and 14 in the UK compound. Honorable Speaker, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, after receiving social media reports in December 2023, convened an interagency meeting on the 9th December 2023 and discussed avenues on how to secure the release of Ugandans. The Right Honorable Prime Minister guided that Ugandan ambassador in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, travels to Myanmar and engages the authorities to ensure the release of Ugandans. The Right Honorable Prime Minister also guided that the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance start to disseminate information, preferably via social media platforms, alerting Ugandans of the dangers of human trafficking and the scams perpetrated by traffickers by deceiving Ugandans of jobs in Asian countries and or Middle East. She also directed that the police undertakes investigations to identify traffickers and prosecute them accordingly. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to this guidance by the Prime Minister, the Ugandan ambassador in Kuala Lumpur requested for Uganda shillings 102 million to enable her and team travel and hold bilateral meetings with relevant authorities. The constraints of resources notwithstanding, myself and colleague ministers held multiple bilateral meetings on the sidelines of NAM Summit in Kampala. More specifically on the issue of Myanmar, I held bilateral meetings on 16th January 2024 with His Excellency Yu Than Su, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister and Union Minister of Foreign Affairs of Myanmar, and this matter was extensively discussed. It was agreed that Uganda and Myanmar establishes bilateral relations and create cooperation frameworks in immigration and anti-trafficking and anti-human trafficking, among others. The Myanmar Foreign Minister also undertook to waive any fine and criminal cases that would have been preferred against those Ugandans. Number two, Ugandans in Egypt. In September 2020, that all foreigners who are staying irregularly and illegally must regularize and legalize their stay by December 2023, or else leave the country. And this 3-month grace period has now been expanded to 15th March 2024. It is unlikely that this period will be extended. In order to regularize stay, each illegal or irregular migrant would be required to, 1, secure an Egyptian host, and 2, pay US $1,000 as administrative fee. This administrative fee would cover for all fines for overstay and costs for processing a resident permit. Therefore, the reports purporting a fee of US $500,000 are not accurate. The exact number of Ugandans staying in Egypt is unknown, mainly because Ugandans don't register their presence with the mission. And secondly, because those who are illegal in the country cannot have their records updated by authorities. Some of the immigrant groups have already submitted approximately 60 Ugandans in need of evacuation and stating that they are unable to meet the conditions set forth by the Egyptian government. It should be recognized that every country takes measures to control illegal immigrants. Uganda, too, certainly has policies in place to regulate entry and stay of aliens. Ugandans who are in this dilemma should therefore endeavor to comply with the policies of the Egyptian government. As the deadline nears, it's unlikely that Ugandans without formal employment will be able to meet the two conditions, as stated above. At the moment, there is no fund to support Ugandans abroad in these stress conditions, and therefore, the responsibility to bring them back home rests with them or their families. It should also be Ugandans who are unable to regularize their stay will end up being charged for illegal stay, jailed for a period of time, and or be made to pay huge fines, which ranges between US $16,000, approximately 16 million Uganda shillings, and US $33,000, approximately Uganda shillings 126 million. In this case, my minister advised all Ugandans in Egypt to regularize their stay by 15th March 2024, or if they are unable, they should leave the country. Those willing to leave should register at the embassy in Cairo. Contacts will be uploaded on the ministry's website so that the embassy engages the authority with the view of processing their exit. Number 3, Ugandans in India. Currently, the Ugandan High Commission in New Delhi indicate that they have up to 200 stranded Ugandan ladies, mostly victims of human trafficking, who want to return home but are unable due to lack of funds to purchase air tickets. The mission does not have adequate space to accommodate them. They were trafficked under the guise of jobs which are not there. Right Honorable Speaker, evacuating Ugandans by government either in Myanmar, Egypt, India, and any other location, wherever they are, will require funding. My ministry will be engaging with the Right Honorable Prime Minister on how to find resources to execute those noble endeavors. The funding of the consular function, which is so critical in protecting Ugandans abroad, needs to be looked into and supported. It is in this regard that we find the proposal by Honorable Semujunganda for establishing a migrant or consular protection fund appropriate. and this will enhance my ministry's capability and Ugandan missions abroad capacities in delivering timely consular protection. Lastly, Right Honourable Speaker, I wish to emphasize that our diplomatic missions are unable to provide financial support to Ugandans abroad who find themselves in serious difficulties, but they exert all efforts to locate and provide consular assistance. It is therefore imperative that in the next financial year budget, 2024-25, Parliament will appropriate adequate funds for supporting consular protection for her citizens abroad. I thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Nkunyinji.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I want, on the onset, Right Honourable Speaker and members, to thank the Minister for the partial honesty, because his statement confirms that actually Ugandans are detained by rebel groups in Myanmar. Secondly, that there are several Ugandans detained across the diaspora, mostly in the Middle East. I only wish to state that I thought the full minister, General J.J. Odong, would have used this opportunity to come and make his maiden speech. He may even be reshuffled before making a maiden speech on such a critical matter. He has not appeared for the last 2 years. Now on the statement, Right Honourable Speaker.
Is there a reshuffle, Honourable? Are you planning a reshuffle?
Right Honourable Speaker, good governance requires change of guards.
Just proceed, Honourable.
Right Honourable Speaker, responding to the report, one, on matters of NAM and G77 plus China, as mentioned by the Minister in his preamble, I presuppose that may require a comprehensive statement to this House, not hiding it under the cover of this response. Thirdly, Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, the statement purports to leave the role of giving travel advice to the Minister of ICT. Our embassies and the Minister of Foreign Affairs cannot abandon this noble duty. Whereas there might be insecurity in different parts of the world, but the Minister of Foreign Affairs and our embassies ought to give regular and timely travel advice to Ugandans. Equally, on the number of Ugandans detained by rebel groups in Myanmar, the Minister has mentioned a figure of 30 without a methodology. But he was quick to add that actually there are several rebel groups. I want to state that several Ugandans are in different compounds, not only Bairo and UK compound. These rebels operate compounds as camps, and many Ugandans are disputed in various camps within Myanmar. We still sustain and retain that the number of Ugandans, from our counting, is 450, and they are likely to be more. We have the names, though we have not seen the annexures, the Minister alluded to of the names, but we could have a number of those names. Also, in terms of the appropriate response and position, whereas the Minister is alluding to a meeting by the Prime Minister. However, Right Honourable Speaker and members, the matter at hand is urgent. These are Ugandans in the hands of rebels. Establishing bilateral ties with Myanmar is welcome. However, we must also address immediate concerns because establishing bilateral relations is a comprehensive and a longer process. These are Ugandans who are at risk of life and death. We must look at immediate and remedial and urgent measures to rescue these stranded Ugandans. And Chair, to this, Right Honourable Speaker and members, to this effect, it is our humble proposal that this Parliament can institute an ad hoc committee to urgently address this matter, because we realize that Cabinet and government is failing to come up with a comprehensive statement on how to ably negotiate the release of these Ugandans. And the negotiating the release of these Ugandans may not only be with the government in Myanmar. These are Ugandans in the hands of rebel groups. We must also see some measures of reaching out to now these rebel groups, because they are hosting Ugandans, and this is a question of life and death. Lastly, second last, right, Honorable
Honorable
Speaker.
colleagues, let's listen to a honorable colleague. If you want to speak, you are honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And actually, their minister spoke. Now I'm a shadow minister. This is our position as opposition, which I beg that you listen. It is for the interest of our country and Ugandans. On the number of Ugandans detained in India, the 200 who are stranded, we find the statement of the minister very shallow and very dishonest. You cannot say that Ugandans in India and those in Egypt are on their own and they should find the means of returning on their own. These are Ugandans under distress. Uganda has a national carrier, a Uganda airline. When it comes to repatriating Ugandan nationals who are stranded and distressed abroad, let's discuss it with the boldness and with honesty, not just focusing on just offering answers. These are Ugandans who are detained. We have a national carrier which does not even make profits. But at least we can utilize it to repatriate and support our stranded nationals. Lastly, Right Honorable Speaker and members, Ugandans who are stranded and detained in Egypt, the minister was open that he cannot recollect the number. But I want to state so many Ugandans are in detentions in Egypt and in other parts of the Middle East. But nevertheless, when it comes to the policy measures, we talked about a fee of 500 that has been made compulsory for them to pay.
Thank you, Honorable Member, for giving way. Right Honorable Speaker, I really want to inform the member that Uganda Airlines has, on several occasions, been employed to repatriate Ugandans from outside. So it's not something that cannot be done, that has never been done, that cannot be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right Honorable Speaker and members, we have also had scenarios where it has supported even a single individual. So, and we're now talking about hundreds of Ugandans. Right Honorable Speaker and members, on Egypt alone, the minister mentioned fines which Ugandans are destined to pay of $16,000, that is 60 million, or to $33,000, that is 126 million. These Ugandans are largely domestic workers. They can't pay this money. We are questioning ourselves for all this long. Where was the Minister of Foreign Affairs to either give advice to Ugandans or engage countries of the world, including Egypt, on better bilateral treatment and bilateral relations, especially labor-related treatment? We want to put it on record that Ugandans are more likely and will more likely fail to comply with the 15th March 2024 deadline. And in such a scenario, they may be required now to pay 126 million each. This is impossible and outrageous. The Minister of Foreign Affairs cannot say and cannot come and brief Parliament in an open statement that they are on their own and their families. That is outrageous. We must have a honest position on how best the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and government is going to address this matter.
Thank you, Honorable. Honorable, just wait a bit. You know, this is a very sensitive docket. This is a docket in most parliaments and in most countries, whereby there is constant communication between the shadow minister and the cabinet minister. Because most of these issues, when you open them up here in Parliament, you might end up causing diplomatic issues between nations and all that. So to begin with, I want to encourage Honorable Murumba, always reach out to your colleague. Honorable Nkunyinji, always reach out to your colleague. Then we come on the floor on issues which we feel should come here, okay? Or one has refused to listen to another. Being a shadow minister is a very, very important post. And I hope we respect each other across, across the right. Number two, I think it should be a policy of, not it should, it is a policy of any government and even any parliament to encourage its citizens in foreign countries to respect the laws of those foreign countries, to respect the laws of hosting countries. If we risk here on the floor of parliament to insinuate and give sort of a picture that government of Israel, of Egypt has said regularize, and for us we are saying, no, even if you don't regularize, we shall come in to help. You know, people must know they have obligations where they are. Then, once we find a situation, we can come in. But here, a minister, really, I will disagree with you, Honourable Minister, if you went on this floor and you say, no, if they don't meet the deadline, we shall come in, we help. These are people who we shall be encouraging them indirectly. Let the time elapse, and then the minister will see how best they can handle. Otherwise, we might indirectly encourage people to remain. I was in Bahrain, and Ugandans knew I was in Bahrain. I didn't know there were even Ugandans. I voluntarily bought tickets for 28 of them as a person. Okay? As a person. Some of them, when I said I'm issuing tickets, pulled out. They said, we want money. But I think we met them with some MPs. Honorable colleagues, I have some of you who joined me. Honorable Mero, you're the one who called me from my hotel to come and meet Ugandans, and they told me they were stuck. I volunteered. Some of them, when I said I must give actual tickets, they said, we want money. Even these people are sharp. Even these people are sharp. We have to be. I'm trying, honorable colleagues, to be cautious with this. Finally, the issue of the annex which we are sharing here, I'm really cautious on this record here, Honorable Minister, listing the name of a person here publicly that he's a rebel held in Myanmar, openly. I think that list shouldn't be it. You refer to the annex, you didn't put it, but it shouldn't. You can even share, you can always have a way of having that list. We confidentially handle it, you look at it, you compare, then you also share the one you have, but without putting people's names here. We might put them in trouble. Honorable Lok?
I do agree. We might not have to publish these names for their own safety and also to make it easy as we are trying to have them repatriated. But like you have guided, that list should be availed somehow, confidentially, so that it eases the process of making sure we get these people back home. The Speaker can guide on who should be availed that list, but at least the list should be availed, because now as Parliament we are getting involved, yeah? That's one. Two, Honourable Speaker, there is need for clarity. The Minister said that our ambassador in Kuala Lumpur requested 402 million shillings to enable her and her team to travel and have bilateral engagements to establish the gravity and all the details of this matter. That money was not availed. Two, the Minister said that he had on the sidelines of NAM an engagement with the Deputy Prime Minister of that country. And they agreed to, going forward, have bilateral agreements so that when our nationals are in that country, they are safe, and so on. And also that the Deputy Prime Minister promised to undertake to waive any fine and criminal cases that would have been preferred against those nationals. That was 16th of January. It's nearly a month now. Because we are talking about people who are being held by rebels, not on their own volition, because the minister has conceded that, look, these people were hoodwinked and now they're in a rebel camp. For over a month since that engagement, what is the update? I think the minister needs to clarify that. And finally, the Ugandans who are in Egypt. The minister in his statement firstly said at the moment there is no fund to support Ugandans abroad in distress conditions. 2 paragraphs down, he's saying those willing to leave should register at the Ugandan embassy in Cairo. so that the embassy engages the authorities with a view of processing their exit. This is neither here nor there. Could you clarify exactly? Because these ones are in distress. They don't have money to get them back. They don't have money to legalize their stay, because the money needed for that is a lot more. And should they stay beyond the period agreed, they are going to pay a lot more money. So they want to return. You're saying you don't have money, but you're saying come, we'll process. What does that mean? They need to know how to follow up. Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, I want to thank the Minister for the statement and all the speakers, including the SADO Minister. The issue of our youth being stranded in Myanmar came to my office in October. We held meetings. Recently, I had another meeting last week with IOM in Italy over the same, together with the president of Kenya. It's not only Uganda that has this issue, almost all East African countries. And the people they are taking to Myanmar, most of them are youth who are well-trained IT technicians or IT graduates. And what they do there is havoc. So our youth are in distress. However, IOM promised that they are going to engage. IOM means International Organization for Migration. And they are going to help us get in touch with the government of Myanmar and see how our youth can be rescued, because they have rescued some. I'm told in Uganda here they have rescued like 4 who are already here. So my appeal to all the leaders across the country is to sensitize our people. To sensitize our people, not for victims. Because they are promised you are going to Bangkok. And once somebody gets to know about Bangkok, which he was studying in history and geography, they are easily swept away. And therefore, our youth should really feel contented with their country.
Thank you, Right Honourable Prime Minister, for allowing that I seek this clarification. You know, we should not be in abeyance. The Minister's statement, which is on the record, is saying, number one, our ambassador has to go. She has not been facilitated to go. The Minister says he met the Deputy Minister, Prime Minister of the country, and they agreed on how to process this matter. Prime Minister, you're saying you are going to engage IOM.
No, I already engaged.
But your statement was that you're going to engage. Okay, so it's important that we have harmony, and that's the clarification I'm seeking. What should we bank on? Are we banking on IOM? Are we banking on the Deputy Prime Minister? But also, specificity in terms of time. Because these are people who are held in a rebel camp. Even one day could be very dangerous. So we want very timely update on what's happening.
Cannot commit in terms of time because IOM is an independent international organization. Secondly, honorable colleagues, I organized a meeting here in the country with the ambassador our ambassador in Kuala Lumpur. All these suggestions the minister is bringing came up under my chair. Honorable Speaker, I want all of us to note that our children are before rebel groups. They are in captive. And so we have to handle this issue with a lot of care because we can put their life at stake. I don't know which other statements the minister made here because I came in a little later because we were having cabinet. Honorable Speaker, we have also involved Interpol together with our ESO operatives. Something is being done. It's not that government is just watching and we're doing nothing. We are doing something. But we cannot give timelines here because we are not in charge of all those, the government of Myanmar, we are not in charge of it. Even members, we are not in charge of the labels.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Colleagues, I'm commanded by Rule 41.